I feel like I haven't seen you guys in like a month. It's only been, what, a week, right? What's going on, you guys? Slim here, finally back to do another video with you guys. I don't know why. It feels like I haven't recorded a video. It feels like in like a month, and like I've kind of like lost track of time with everything. Just had a lot going on, but man, it feels good to actually talk about Yu-Gi-Oh again, even though it's only been maybe a week, if that. You guys know how much I love this game, so anytime I go maybe even more than a day or two where something Yu-Gi-Oh related isn't happening, or I'm not touching my cards or something, just feels weird. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is we're here to talk about hand traps, you guys. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and what I have up on the screen, I decided to do it like this just so you guys have a little better visual, and we could go through them one by one and talk about the impact of hand traps this format. We've had UDS Indianapolis, we have had the PPGs, we have had the YCS in Portland, and now we're going forward basically towards just regionals as well as the upcoming YCS Niagara this month. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. And the one thing I wanted to really talk about is hand traps, because hand traps really change and dictate a lot of formats, and I feel that these are the cards that I wanted to cover. Granted, I probably missed some hand traps. There were some I didn't include here on purpose because they don't really see play, but I wanted to mention some of these. Even though not all of these cards do see play, I feel that they do have potential to do well this format, and they do have impacts against different decks. So yeah, that's what we're here to talk about here today. So if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, because it lets me know that you enjoy the content I'm producing and helps me make better content going forward. But yeah, so hand traps, you guys. We're going to go down the line and talk about what each of these hand traps basically do and what their impact will be for the format. So you guys already know I love Lancea. I freaking love Lancea. I have been playing Lancea. I don't even know. It's been so long, like, actually, that I've been playing this card. Even back when I played Mech Knights, back before we had like all these crazy other cards, before we had decks like Solomon Grape, before we had decks like Thunder Dragon, I was still playing Lancea because it was insane in the mirror match. Because, you know, they go Invocation, you just go Lancea, and well, yeah, their turn just kind of just fizzles. It was pretty crazy. One thing I'll say is I feel Lancea is still impactful. I did talk about how I felt that it wasn't as impactful as it was before, but I'm seeing a lot more Orcus decks. You guys have seen there's a lot of combo decks that are incorporating the Orcus engine because the cards are insane. There's no denying it. Making a Dingirsu, making a Galatea, all that stuff is nuts. Setting up for Crescendo, doing all these crazy things where your graveyard becomes your second hand. Lancea just takes away that whole option, and I think it's just insane. This card has had its huge impact. You guys already know at Nationals how nuts this card was. It basically just ended people's turn who played Orcus. It was also really insane against Danger Thunder or any deck that really needs to banish cards from the graveyard. Now granted, I know Danger Thunder decks evolved. They do play a lot more Crusadias. They do play around Lancea a little bit better, but at the same time, anything that cuts them off from cards like Levianeer, cuts them off from the Baby Dragons if they get to them, anything from banishing is pretty solid in my book. And again, this card is a blowout against Orcus. I feel it's definitely a card that you should still have somewhere in your side deck, because I feel that if you go into a tournament blind, you don't have anything really prepared for Orcus, you're going to get raffle stomped, because the deck really is crazy still. They're finding ways to innovate it pretty much every day, every week. You guys see it. You guys see the decks that top. You guys see the like I said, the inclusion of the engine in other decks, and I feel Lancea is just a staple that you should have somewhere going forward. But yeah, that's enough against Lancea. Okay, Ash. Ash is amazing. Ash is amazing because it's the most generic hand trap. It is literally the most generic hand trap because I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. You can always Ash something. I feel that there is not a deck in Yu-Gi-Oh that I've ever played against where I couldn't have Ash something. And I think that makes Ash like literally like the most insane hand trap, because there's always something you can hit. Like, I think that's just so crazy to me. Like, it could be something as simple as a Pot of Desires. It could be a summon from a deck. It could be just anything. And I think what's nuts is that this card is just so generic. It has synergy in Solomon Grape because it's a fire. It has all these amazing things going for it. It's a tuner in any other kind of deck. And I think that Ash will always be a hand trap. I feel that it's probably just main deck worthy in almost every deck. The combo decks I know aren't going to play it, but it's just something that any other deck should be main decking, because there's no reason not to main deck Ash if your deck can support it. If you're not a super wombo combo deck that just wants to see combo pieces, Ash is just that hand trap that you want to have. Like, even in these decks going forward that came out in the new format, as soon as our list dropped, all they wanted to do was include Ash because it was just that good. And that just should tell you enough right there, is that Ash is just good against everything everything, there will not be a deck that you can't ash at any point in the game. So I think it's pretty crazy. But yeah, next I got DD Crow. So DD Crow doesn't get enough love, and let me tell you right now, I love me some DD Crow. I've loved me some DD Crow since the Teledad days. I loved me some DD Crow when I used to activate Crush Card with DD Crow. Like, it was insane. Like, DD Crow was the homie back then. DD Crow was basically, if you didn't have Sangan, DD Crow was like your other Crush Card virus target, and that was just insane. So yeah, that's not really the point, but DD Crow is amazing against Solomon Great. You know this. Any card, you know, being able to just banish any card during either player's turn is crazy. This card has been around so long, it just doesn't get enough love. You guys know how good this is, being able to crow the Spinny, crow the Gazelle, crow anything that's in the graveyard, anything they want to recur, stuff like that. You just chain to it, you get it out of the graveyard. It's nuts. They lose a lot of steam. It's good against Orcus, getting combo pieces out of the grave. It's good against, you know, it's not good against Thunder. You don't want to be banishing any of the Thunder monsters, but it is good against a lot of decks. It's really good against Striker, Crow the Ray. I mean, we all know how good Call by the Grave is against Ray. If you have Crow in your main deck or your side deck, Crow's not that bad. You can crow the target, you can crow the engages, you can crow the like I said, you can crow the Kagari, you can crow whatever you want, like just to get anything out of the grave you don't want your opponent reusing again, because that deck isn't going to get anything back from the banish pile. So it's pretty crazy. I really like DD Crow. It's a card that I think is just good almost every format. It just doesn't get enough love, and I wanted to make sure that I gave it some love on this video, because DD Crow is just, it's been around forever, and it's just, when you get hit by a DD Crow, you kind of just have a WTF moment. Like, did that really happen? I'm like, yeah, you got DD Crowed. So it's a card I definitely consider. I know some of the hand traps on here. There is one I didn't actually put yet. I didn't put Phantazmay. We'll add that. I guess we'll add that. I just realized a lot of times I always forget, because Phantazmay is I can't even spell. Phantazmay is, you know, is a lot of times out of a lot of players' budgets. But one thing about it, when we get to it, we'll talk about, you know, other options you have. And Crow is something I actually really like if you don't have access to Phantazmay, because it does, while it doesn't put a body on the board, it can disrupt your opponent, and disrupting your opponent is like the name of the game. So yeah. On to the new guy, Dimension Shifter. Now, I'll be honest, I put him on here only because of the Megatons. I'm not gonna lie, I only put him on here for that. While I think this card is cool, I don't actually think it is going to be that impactful. There's another card on this list that I think will not be that impactful, but I wanted to include it anyway. Dimension Shifter, I mean, yes, having the ability to, you know, make your opponent everything it gets banished for the turn, really good against Orcus, good against, you know, decks that want their stuff in the graveyard. But I mean, other than that, I just don't think it's that good. It's way too situational. It's way too you know, you just have to have it. It's kind of like similar to another card I didn't include on here, and I guess we'll include it anyway. Like, this is kind of cool. You guys can kind of see, like, when I realize I'm making my videos, I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot certain cards, but we'll add in there. Yeah, no material will be in there too. So yeah, but one thing I can tell you guys is that I don't actually think Dimension Shifter is really going to see that much play, just because I think that Lancea is just better. But I could be wrong. Like, people might actually be playing this. It is a dark, so it does have some synergy, but I mean, I still think Lancea will still be better against Orcus in the long run. So, Droll and Lockbird, another card that doesn't get enough love. Droll and Lockbird is always in a weird spot. It's either like absolutely amazing or just no one plays it. It's not that it's ever trash, it's just people don't, like, just don't play it. And that's the thing I've noticed with this card, is that when this card resolves, this card's insane. This card is literally like a smack in the face. Like, against Danger Thunder decks, any deck that wants to keep drawing, adding cards to their hand, yeah, you can't do that. Droll is nuts. Trickstars, you guys know, abused this card back in the day. They still abuse it now for people that are still playing Trickstars. Like, DD Crow is still, like, ridiculous, and I think it's a card that is that people forget about. Any deck that wants to start searching, wants to start doing things, like, Crow is actually insane. Like, if you guys noticed, the second place list from YCS Portland, main deck DD Crow. Like, I mean, main deck Droll and Lockbird. Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy that he actually was that far ahead to think, you know, I feel like I'm going to play a lot of combo decks. Let me have the best option against them. And that's what Droll and Lockbird was. And it's just another option that you guys have, again, if some of these hand traps are too expensive for you guys, because Droll does have the common reprint. For people that don't remember, it does have the common reprint. Same with Ash. So there are ways to get access to these cards, which I really like. So there's that. Next, Effect Veiler. Veiler's been around a long time too. Just another, like, in my opinion, just like a pretty generic hand trap. Just really good. This is basically your budget option if you don't have infinite impermanence. This is just really good. One thing I'll say, Veiler has over a lot of things. A lot of the hand traps on this list, you can use more than one in a turn. Like, it isn't great when you open two Veiler, but sometimes it is, because you can Veiler one thing, they try to do anything else, Veiler again. They're just like, what? You had the second Veiler? But like, yeah, I had the second Veiler. And while it's not the best thing to see two Veilers in your opening challenging hand, especially if you're trying to combo, you're trying to get your deck started. Being able to set your opponent back that many effects, that many monsters, whatever it is just really solid in my opinion. So I think Belle is still really, really cool. And Fantastical. Of course, I forgot Fantastical on this list because I'm so used to always talking about the, just all the generic hand traps where you actually discard them and they do something or whatever. I always forget about Fantastical. A lot of times because this card is sometimes in the main deck, sometimes you don't even see it at all. This card has gone up and down in the last couple formats just because it's really hard to tell, is it worthy to main deck? Is it something I should just side deck? Am I going to play against a lot of Salamangreat? Am I going to play against a lot of Striker? Or am I going to play against a bunch of like back row decks that this card will never get summoned on? And yeah, that's the thing with Phantazmay, is that as amazing as this card is, being able to draw cards, being able to fix your hand, being able to stop targeting, a lot of times it's a gamble because you never really know what deck you're going to play against unless you know for sure that the room is filled with Strikers and Salamangreats and decks that this card really is high impact against. It's kind of hard to decide, am I going to main deck it, am I going to side deck it? But I think this card is still really good in any format, especially when you're playing against combo decks, because you can get there, you can draw out, and you can draw more hand traps with Phantazmay. Phantazmay has always gotten a lot of love too because it helps you see your side deck cards, and I think that's huge. Like I said, if you guys aren't able to afford Phantazmays, like not everyone can, there are other options here on this list. Like I mentioned, DD Crow being another option. While it isn't the same card, at least you still produce an interruption. And Phantazmay is just, like I said, it's good, it's just not good against every deck. I feel like a card like DD Crow could actually be across the line of decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! You'll actually be able to DD Crow more times than you'd be able to drop Phantazmay. So there's just a little food for thought. But yeah, Phantazmay is still really good. Just like I said, you have to see, number one, if your deck can support playing it, and number two, what your metagame looks like, depending on if you're at a locals, a regionals, a YCS, bigger event, whatever it is. If you know your metagame, then you know if Phantazmay is right or not. On to Ghost Belle. So Ghost Belle started to see a lot more play because of Pure Thunder decks, also because of Orcus. This card's just really, really solid. Being able to stop Call by the Grave is also nuts too. I think a lot of people, like, this card has bounced in and out of if people like it, if people don't like it. It's actually, I think, if you were to look at the lifespan of like all these hand traps, it's probably one of the least played cards out of all the Ghost Sisters. It probably is the least played next to Spooky Dogwood, but it's pretty crazy that no one really acknowledges just how powerful this is, because being able to get cards back from the graveyard, when they go Hawk and you Ghost Belle it, it's crazy. They special summon a monster from the graveyard, you Belle it, it's crazy. Like, I think a lot of people don't give this card enough attention. It's something I think you guys should do. It's definitely a really cool card if you can support it in your side deck. Like I said, if you're playing Thunder Dragons, it's really good against the mirror match. If you're playing against Orcus, it's really good against that in general. Being able to stop them in their combos is nuts. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just a really solid hand trap, and I think not enough players give it enough credit. And I think it's something that, again, if you guys don't have access to Impermanence, you guys don't have access to Phantazmay, any of these like quote unquote like expensive hand traps, if you can get your hands on Ghost Belle, that's another really good card that, depending on the matchups, it could come in handy. So it's just, again, food for thought. Then good old Ghost Ogre. So Ghost Ogre, I kind of put Ghost Ogre with Ash. I almost feel like Ogre, there's always something to Ogre. I feel like there is. Like, there was always something to Veiler. There was always something to DD Crow. There was always something to Ash Blossom. I'm at the point now where I feel like there's always something to Ghost Ogre. I know that's weird because you would think, oh, it's not that good against Salamangreat. It's not good against it. But, sometimes you'll just catch them on their normal summon, their turn ends. You know how good it is against multi-roll. You know how good it is at breaking a Saryuja Link Arrow, like all the Link Arrows. Like, being able to get Link Monster off the board that activates, that basically opens up all the zones to your opponent is insane. It doesn't matter if they're drawing with Saryuja, they need to draw enough resources to get back into the game to get those Link Arrows, because without those Link Arrows, they can't go anywhere. They can't guard dragon combo if they don't have the arrows. Ogre can be so devastating. I don't think enough people acknowledge it. I think a lot of people don't acknowledge either that this card activates on the field too. I remember in the whole time I've been playing this card, I did it once and it won me the game, and I was like, holy crap, I actually remembered that it actually activated on the field too. Like, that's pretty crazy, right? Like, I think a lot of people forget that. Like, these things with these hand traps is, yes, they activate in the hand, but sometimes you can use them on the field too, so that's pretty nuts. I think Ogre, again, just very, very solid. You guys know how good it is against Pendulum. You know how good it is against being able to hit multi-roll. You know how good it is being able to break, like I said, the Link Arrow, the big Link Arrow monsters like Saryuja or anything like that that would activate, so that you can just clear it off the board and they can't full combo. But yeah, overall, I think you should definitely consider Ghost Ogre. Again, it does have, what is it? I'm trying to think how many reprints this card has. This card has a decent amount of reprints. I feel that it should be something you guys should have access to. So I really like it. I think it's a card that, I think it's definitely one of the top, I'd put it probably easily in the top 5 best hand traps for the format. So Ogre on a Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Again, I put this on here probably because it's a Ghost Sister, same with the next one, but Cherries just really hasn't seen a lot of play. And the reason it hasn't seen a lot of play is we're not really in a format where we had decks that abused Firewall Dragon and Azold that literally were just so game breaking you needed to Winter Cherries it so that you could even get a chance to play. Now we have a lot of decks where, okay, if you Winter Cherried the Sunlight Wolf, it would probably really hurt Salamangreat, but again, they can play through it. I've seen it before. You could, against Thunder, like, you don't even want to get rid of the Colossus, especially if you're playing against Pure, because they can just shuffle them back with the fusion spell. If you use it against combo Thunder, they don't really care, because a lot of times, you guys know the ending boards, there's maybe one Colossus. If there's two, then they opened really broken. So that's one thing. I like Cherries. I just don't think it's that good right now, but I wanted to include it again because I know a lot of people still have this card and they're probably wondering, you know, is this card good this format? I would say it's not good right now, but maybe in the future it will be a little bit better. It always depends when we get a deck that it plays a dominant card that every deck plays, and it's like the centerfold of the deck. So if that ends up happening again, we could probably start seeing this card played again. So that's it for Cherries. And then, I mean, I don't really know what to say about this card. I remember when I made this video months ago about it being the new Max C, and then I looked back, I scratched my head, I was like, why did I ever say that? I said that a lot, and I probably shouldn't have said that. Yeah, this card hasn't done much. It did see some pretty cool stream play, but I mean, at the end of the day, you can gain a bunch of life points and you can still die. Like, it can happen. So I think while this card is kind of cool in theory, and while it could maybe win you a game in time, you might still just get obliterated by everything your opponent puts on the board. So I don't think this card is great. I think the gimmick idea of using it in time, it's kind of cute, but I don't think it's very effective in the long run of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! But again, that's neither here nor there. So if you guys want to try it out, go ahead. I wanted to include it because it is a Ghost Sister. So being able to talk about it, I felt was just important since I have all the other Ghost Sisters on here. But in all honesty, out of all the ones on here, I feel this is the one that you're going to see the least, even more than Winter Cherries, because Winter Cherries you could actually Cherries like more targets, and it would be more beneficial than I think Dogwood. But again, we'll see how the meta shapes up. No material. The card I forgot to. I forget a lot of these guys because they see play, then they don't see play. They see play, then they don't see play. And it goes back and forth. So no material was played in the UDS winning deck, and it was pretty cool. No material is just really good. I have been no material before, and it has really been a hindrance at times. Like, being able to just stop your opponent from linking and going further in their combo is pretty nuts. But again, the problem with no material is that you have to see it going second in your opening hand of 5. So it's unsearchable, and going second, you have to see it. You have to really hope that you draw it. You have to get lucky. And like I said, eventually there will be a video on luck in Yu-Gi-Oh! But no material, I think, is definitely something that you guys should have in general. Just have it. Like, you never know when it's going to actually be really good. It was really solid at Nationals, then it kind of fell off in play. But I feel that a card like this, while it may not seem that great right now, it does have the potential to be good in the future. So I wouldn't sleep on this card. I would think that a lot of people, you know, are experimenting with the card. They're deciding, okay, is it good? Is it bad? And, you know, overall, they'll see, you know, in the long run of if it's worth a side deck spot. I've seen people go as far as to main deck, and I don't think that's correct right now. But again, we don't know what the rest of the format is going to, how the rest of the format is going to shape up. So we could definitely see more with no material. Oh man. Oh man. The Rock, man. The Death Star. The man. Nibiru, the Primal Being. Yeah, this card's pretty nuts. I'm not gonna lie. This card's pretty nuts. I've heard people say this card sucks. I think this card's pretty nuts, to be honest. This card is literally the death to combo decks. Unless your deck can play 4 summons and just not get to that 5th summon, or play something like Exchange or Drag Down or Dolphin to get it out of your opponent's hand or something like that. I don't even know. I think this card is just... If you're playing a combo deck, put them on Better Have It. If you're playing this card is insane. This card just wipes the board and gives them a dang token. Like, I think this card is gonna see a ton of play. A ton of play. I'm not even gonna downplay it. I've already seen deck lists having it in the side deck. I already saw a first place deck list that had it in the side deck. Johnny main decked this card in his Cosmos. This card is just nuts. I think this card really changed the format for sure. I know combo decks aren't dead because of this card, because some combo players are crazy enough to just say, well, I'm gonna put them on Better Have It, or I'm gonna find a way to play around it before they even get to draw drop it on me. So this card is pretty cool. This card shook up the meta, and yeah, we're gonna see a lot more of it. I'm not gonna go like it's super detailed how I was saying this card is. You guys already know. There's so many videos on this card. There's so many memes about this card. This card is just the nuts. This card is the whole reason why this video is made, because this hand trap is just insane. Nibiru the Primal Being, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, the Death Star, all the memes, all the names. Card's insane, and I love it. And then down to the last two. So two of my actual favorites are actually Gamma. I really do like Gamma. I like if your deck is playing Lambda. If your deck has synergy to search it, that's insane. The ability to drop it on the board while you have Lambda is nuts. It just, your opponent gets baited so easily. It's a solemn strike on legs. This card has just always been good. I know, you draw driver, it sucks. Well, you know, you run the risk. You run the risk. There's always risk in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's always gambling in Yu-Gi-Oh! You draw the driver, you draw the driver. You draw them together, well, you can still summon the driver. So hope to God that you draw the Gamma and you don't draw the driver, or you draw them together. If it happens, it happens. But if this card resolves, this card is a blowout. This card can just break anything. Bait your opponent so easy. Oh, they go standby Dweller. Oh, you Gamma. Oh, they pretty much lose. And you just start comboing off. And again, like I've said before with this card, you get two monsters on the board to work with. Two monsters you can link away and start doing combos. I think that's just insane. I think it's just a card that everyone should acknowledge as just one of the best hand traps in any format. This card is generic enough to be good in any format. And lastly, Infinite Impermanence. I know this is a pretty long video. I just wanted to cover as many as I could. Infinite Impermanence, I mean, this card is still really insane. Again, if you can't afford them, there's Valor. What I like about Impermanence, though, is you have the ability to, you know, do something during your turn, do something during your opponent's turn. Like, you have the ability to work with this card. The fact that this card has a column manipulation is insane. Not enough players pay attention to that, and they get punished for it. Can't tell you how many times it's happened. It actually happened to me once, I will admit. I got Impermanence in a column, and I stupidly activated a card in that column, and after that happened, I never did it again. Once it happens to you guys, I promise you'll never do it again, because it is literally, you feel your heart sink when you realize, oh my god, I just activated a Desires in the column that Impermanence was in, and yeah, it doesn't work. It's so insane. Like, I'll never forget that. I will admit it happened to me once, and oh, you know, it still haunts me to this day. But yeah, Impermanence is just a really solid card overall. It's generic enough, along with Ash Blossom, to be sometimes the only hand traps you need if you're trying to not bog down your deck with hand traps. Because one problem with hand traps, I will admit, if you draw a ton of them, yes, you'll stop your opponent, yes, you'll interrupt your opponent, but man, I hope you have a follow-up play. But yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I know it's long. I just really wanted to talk a lot about the hand traps of this format, how I feel they're going to be, how they're going to be impactful, and I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. Again, if you guys are new, consider subscribing. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like. And let me know about hand traps I did forget. Again, all these cards, they do have a lot of reprints. A lot of these cards have a lot of reprints. They do have a lot of printings, and these cards, outside of, I would say, Phantazmay and Impermanence, are not super expensive. Again, you got to check the market to see how they work, but if you're looking to purchase any of these cards, feel free to use my TCG player link, which is down in the description below. It goes back to the channel. It benefits me, benefits you guys for better content, and I really do appreciate the support. But yeah, hand traps, you guys, every format they're impacting this game. These are just a list of just a couple of them. Like, I know there's more. I know there's ones we didn't cover. I know there's ones that I just randomly added because I completely forgot. But I can tell you right now, in any format in Yu-Gi-Oh, hand traps will have a place. I feel that these are cards that you should always try to have sets of, because you never know when a hand trap is going to be impactful. You may only end up playing 2 copies of it, but sometimes when you need that full set, it's just better. And just overall, I feel hand traps will always dictate formats. But I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. What is your favorite hand trap this format? Which hand traps do you feel are main deck worthy and side deck worthy? Let's have a good discussion in the comments, and we'll definitely get into more about hand traps in the future. But yeah, those are my thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.